Welcome to the Climate Governance Initiative's Global Summit 2022 with the theme Ambition to Action. Climate Governance Malaysia is the Secretariat for the ASEAN Climate Governance Network, which is supported by all institutes of directors in the region. And we have curated a series of 4 sessions for this 24-hour Global Summit. This is the 4th and final session curated by the ASEAN Climate Governance Network, Voices of Youth for a Cleaner, Greener Future. The Climate Governance Initiative mobilizes boards of directors around the world to address climate change in their business, building on the World Economic Forum's principles for effective climate governance. This network now comprises 24 chapters in 56 countries. The climate crisis is informed by science, and as an existential crisis, throwing up significant risks and opportunities, all directors need to be climate literate. In particular, we need to hear from the voices of the youth because they are going to be our future consumers, investors, bankers, and of course, human capital that we are going to rely on. To discuss Voices of the Youth for a Cleaner, Greener Future today, we are delighted to have a great lineup for you. We will start with a keynote from a youth leader, Alex Lim from Roots and Shoots Malaysia. I will then moderate a panel of youth leaders who are working closely with youth throughout the region. TP Lim, President, Roots and Shoots Malaysia. Nguyen Thi Quinan, Senior Manager, Advisory Services, Net Zero PwC Vietnam. Suksave Teo Kam Chan, Founder of Zero Waste Laos, and Juliana Adam, CEO of BGBG Malaysia. We will then wrap up this session with 2 keynotes by Assad Razzouk, CEO of Gurin Energy and board member of ClientEarth Singapore, and YB Dato Sri Mustapa bin Mohamed, Minister in the Prime Minister's Department Economy, Malaysia. All sessions are recorded, so you will have access to these recordings. Enjoy the session.
Thank you so much, Datin and Sunita. Today, there are 1.2 billion young people aged 15 to 24 years old, accounting for 16% of the global population. In the ASEAN context, however, youth is defined as those from 15 to 34 years old. This represents 1/3 of the combined population of ASEAN. Just imagine if 1/3 of your customers start demanding a sustainable option for products and services, that will very likely impact your business strategy. This might be closer to reality because a recent study done by Credit Suisse Research Institute has indicated that Gen Z and millennials in emerging economies are more likely to buy sustainable products. But youth is not just contributing as a consumer. Many youths have stepped up to contribute directly to sustainable development. Example given, Refill Station in Thailand, which is the first bulk store in Thailand where you can bring empty containers of shampoo, shower gel, and detergent to refill, essentially providing an alternative for the Thais to reduce their waste. In Malaysia, we have the Malaysian Youth Dedication, which is a local youth climate movement focusing on raising awareness of climate policies among Malaysians and keeping Malaysian leaders and international institutions accountable for their climate promises and policies. We also have an individual from the Philippines, Marinia Ubaldo, a climate activist who had helped to organize the first youth climate strike in her country. She was also the country coordinator for the UN Climate Change Conference of Youth in Glasgow last year. After this, we will have a panel of discussion with the fellow youth, and I believe there will be a lot more great initiatives that will be shared later. So what I've shared are only a few great initiatives that the youth have led, demonstrating the capability of youth to contribute meaningfully to a country's sustainable development. So how do we get more youth to be involved and eventually also integrate them into the overall sustainable development agenda in the country? Firstly, we need to turn awareness into action. Access to information is no longer the same with the presence of digital technologies. Youth who had grown up with access to these digital technologies had long been exposed to all sorts of information. The Southeast Asia Climate Outlook 2021 survey report had shown that more than 70% of youth rely on online news sites, social media, and online influencers, public figures, to get news on climate change. Approximately 75% of youth in Southeast Asia had responded that they recognize the importance of climate change and believe it is a serious and immediate threat to the well-being of their respective country. But for the youth to translate this awareness into action, there needs to be more explicit call to action on how and where they can contribute. Government and corporates can support this in many forms. Among them is more engagement with university students and high school leavers on the career opportunities available. It can start by developing and supporting more programs focusing on the theme of climate change within schools and universities to build up talents for the future. This engagement can help youth narrow down their preferred career within the sustainability field, as there are also actually a lot of options to choose from. Other than that, the career option should also be made more accessible, and thus online platforms such as Green Jobs Malaysia are a very great way to close the talent gap for a greener economy. But again, contributing to a greener economy does not necessarily need to come from a specific green job or a specific career per se. It is also about how everyday businesses can integrate environmental considerations into their strategy. And integration of environmental considerations can also bring economic and social benefits when done right. A good example is the Mata Kaya project in Indonesia, which train young people and SMEs in terms of business management, fish handling, and processing technique using energy-efficient technology. As a result, young SME business person who implemented sustainable technologies experienced nearly double income compared to those who only adopted improvement in business management. We are halfway through the timeline for achieving the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. And the central principle of the 2030 agenda is no one will be left behind. In the process of achieving a greener future, it is also important for us to also look at equitable access to resources for the people in the country. According to the first ASEAN Youth Development Index, there are still huge gaps in terms of enrollment in secondary education, digital native rate, and access to improved sanitation facilities. Oftentimes, this group are those who are from marginalized communities, and there is a very good chance that environmental protection may not be on top of their agenda. But can we really blame them if they are still struggling with even putting food on their table? Unfortunately, this group is also the one that is typically suffering from the brunt of climate crisis and environmental pollution. Understandably, the government is already working towards closing the gap. And I would like to say that this is also a great opportunity to get more youth to be involved. Organizations such as Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative, or also known as YCLE, does provide small grants for youth in ASEAN to tackle environmental, economic, and social issues within their communities. Many more corporates can also get on this by providing monetary support to different youth-led initiatives, especially in areas where their business operates. To make the initiative more impactful, this funding should preferably go to an established organization where this organization can act as a mentor to these youth when running their initiative, thus ensuring a long-lasting impact in the initiative that they are running. In fact, this opportunity will also allow youth to transform their passion into actionable solutions, which are often easier said than done. In the process of developing a meaningful and need-based solution for the communities, the youth will be challenged to use whatever hard and soft skills that they may have. While awareness of the sustainability issue is important, youth will also need good leadership and critical thinking skills to create a lasting impact in the community that they are working with. I believe that the leadership skills that the youth develop through this process will go a long way, as the youth will be the future leaders of the country. We need more leaders that are environmentally sound and would focus on the long-term benefits rather than succumbing to short-term gains. In summary, youth can be a major force for sustainable development and key agents for social change, economic growth, and technological innovation when provided with the right opportunity. Investing in the youth is not just about investing in the future, because great solutions have been developed by youth itself today. And it is important that we also talk about immediate solution for present issues, as the impact of climate crisis is materializing today itself. There is no point in talking about a greener future if we could not even adapt to the changing climate today. At the end of the day, it will require a concerted effort from the whole society, regardless of their age group, to achieve a greener future while navigating through the climate crisis. It will be difficult, but I believe if we are persistent and continue building new pipelines to step up and contribute to a cleaner, greener future, we will be able to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alex. Really appreciated that. Great keynote. Thank you. And now for the panel discussion, I'm going to invite each panelist to share insights on how boards and businesses can take into account the voices of youth for a cleaner, greener future. As we've just heard from Alex, this is going to be a very significant consumer base. This is what they are demanding, a just and smooth transition. So what say you, TP, and then Quinan, Suksave, and then Juliana? What are your thoughts?
Thank you very much, Datin. And I represent Roots and Shoots Malaysia. We are part of the Jane Goodall Institute program for young people around the world. And our aim is really to empower and encourage young people from all corners of the world to roll up their sleeves and take action on issues that matter to them, be it issues relating to animal protection, protecting the environment, or protecting human communities. Now, in our work, working in Malaysia and in Southeast Asia generally, we have found that young people of today, and we are really referring to individuals who are below the age of 25, this is the group that we interact with the most. We have found that they are very, very well informed about issues of climate change and climate crisis. And they are quite demanding in terms of what they believe the adults should be doing from a corporate standpoint, from a community leader standpoint, from government standpoints. So these, I guess, the main point I want to make in this discussion is please take care and be aware and be mindful of the psychology of the young people. These are future consumers, or current and future consumers, but also they are current and future staff members of your company. They will, in very likelihood, strong likelihood, become the future leaders of government, of corporations, of civic society organizations, etc. So when you have a upcoming population of young people who are very caring about the environment and demand solutions and demand explanations and demand justice in terms of the climate issues that surround them, all of this should inform decisions to be made from a corporate standpoint. And I think if I may just highlight this fact, if those of us sitting around the table are feeling like, you know what, I'm really not sure, I'm not really sure about what's this TikTok phenomena. I really don't understand what the young people are doing, watching the 30-second videos, which a lot of time, doesn't really make sense to me. Just imagine that sense of disconnect that we have with this generation just on TikTok alone, right? And translate that into what we are not really understanding about how they feel in regards to the environment and what they expect from corporations. So they are definitely getting lots and lots of information and data, and they are forming their opinions about your brand, about your company from TikTok, right? They're not reading the traditional newspapers and magazines that we spend so much time and money putting our advertising on, right? So just be mindful of that. So the psychology of young people today and the way that they are receiving information and data about your company all of this is something that I think we should be cognizant about, and we should think about deeply in terms of how we can engage with them better, and also seek to understand them better as well. So that's really my my highlight for this discussion. Who's next?
Yes, it's me. Thank you, Tipili, thank you, Sunita. Yeah, it's great pleasure to be here today and discuss this important topic with all of you. And a little bit introduce about myself. My name is Gurin and I'm from PwC, Vietnam. Currently, I'm a senior manager in transformation advisory, and I'm also an activist of PwC Net Zero. I agree with TP Lim that young people are the future of the companies and society. And I think young people can always be the pioneers in one aspect of life and work. Therefore, the business and board should encourage young people take action on climate change at home and at work. Firstly, just anyone can contribute to climate action by our day-to-day activity. Simple action such as turn off the light if we do not use fuel, plastic bags, plant tree, recycle paper. Very, very simple. And all of us are consumer. We consume a lot of things every day: food, clothes, transportation. And if we become responsible consumer, for example, we eating seasonal fruits, using ethical fashion, we walking and cycling more instead of driving. We say yes with green products. That means we are helping to reduce carbon emission. Very simple, right? And second, I think just are very creative and innovative at work, and boss should engage young people in making a difference on climate in the job they do every day, and even empower young people to drive sustainable change through innovation. And you mentioned before, TP. So just can contribute by thinking and working more efficiently and effectively, applying lean practice in the working processes, reducing lead time, or saving the resource. On the way, we can contribute to climate change action. And for example, on my college, at my previous company, a manufacturer of wooden doors and windows, he used to propose his idea, and then he led a project to turn wooden waste, a small piece, into some souvenirs like pen holders and tissue boxes. Quite simple, but it works as a company. And another example, like my job as an advisor for our clients, we can help to enhance their awareness on climate change, ESG, and net zero. I'm sure that some of our clients, they never listened or heard about net zero before. Yeah, it's true. And are responsible to help to raise awareness. And maybe we also share our ESG journey of PwC. We can advise clients on how to measure carbon emission through the whole value chain, identify climate change risk and opportunity. So in summary, I would like to say that the businesses and the boards can encourage young people contribute to climate change action in the jobs they do and in the lives they live every day. Yeah. Hand over to Junior.
Suksaboy, it's your turn.
Okay, hello everyone, I'm Suksaboy from Zero Waste Laos. So we work a lot with young people in the past few years. So we see that young people, they are very energetic and very, very powerful. And for example, in Laos, we have almost 60% of the population is a young people. So we believe that if we could change the mindset or even the behavior of the young people, that we can change the future of Laos or in the region to be greener. So we are not just only work with the young people, but we also sometimes we connect with the government and also the private sector. So sometimes we could see that there is a gap between these two entities, business entity and government and the young people. So I would like to see more in the future that this group of people, government or the private sector, should also work together, because as I mentioned, young people, we have 60% in Laos, but if we could have them, because young people, they are also the big group of consumer for those business sector as well, and they are the key driver for the business in the future and also the economic development. So also regarding to the movement of the young people in terms of environmental action, so there is a gap or the challenge that they could not get enough support from business entity or the government. So I think since the business or the private sectors could also consider to support, not just only in terms of the awareness, but also some of the CSR project or some of the work that can provide opportunity to young people to take a movement or to do some project in their community. I think this will not just only encourage them to lead on environmental protection or climate change, it's also build the capacity of young people. How can they learn and gain experience in the young age to be the sustainability leader in the future? I think this is the area that we really want to see in Laos, or not only in Laos, but in the region, that see the cooperation to work together with the stakeholder in this area. Yeah, so that's all from my side.
All right. Thank you, Sunita, and my fellow panelists. Hi, everyone. Juliana here. I am from BGBG Initiative. We are a Malaysian-based impact-driven social enterprise, and we aim to democratize access to tech and education towards a sustainable development. So I'll be sharing with you my perspective on the topic based on the work that we do specifically with the youth. So we at BGBG, we work with the youth in a way where we help build on their existing skills and develop them to become sustainability-driven entrepreneurs. Almost all of the time, we find that these youths already have some sort of social or environmental impact that they are incorporating into their projects or their businesses or their startups. And it is this kind of impacts that are the drivers for them to get into entrepreneurship or to have their own startups. For us, it's always very heartwarming and personally very motivating to see these young people following their passion, and ultimately they all share the same passion and drive to create change. So because of their generational upbringing and what they are exposed to, like social media, TikTok, as TP mentioned, the tech advancements that they are also exposed to, and taking into account the educational exposure that they have on climate change or environmental and social challenges, exactly just like what Alex spoke about in his keynote earlier. All of this combined gives the youth today the edge and also the advantage to be able to think in a more innovative and disruptive kind of manner. Being young for them really is at their advantage, because it allows them to be more of a risk taker. They're able to use all the energy and dynamism that they naturally possess and channeling this to create a positive impact. So like going more into the topic of youth and also their role in sustainable future. Just to give you an example, a real life example of what we go through. We receive hundreds of internships and job applications from young people at any given time. And whenever we ask these youths, why do you choose to work with a relatively small organization as compared to big corporations that can give you the career leverage? And we are always met with the same kind of answers. They say to us, I'd rather work in a company that share the same values and need for impact as I do than to earn a higher salary in corporates whose visions I don't believe in. So being a youth myself who started my own sustainability-driven business, I resonate very deeply with that statements from these youth. And I can confidently say the same for my fellow founders as well. The whole reason why we started BGBG is because we want to create environmental impact. And also we want to prove that we can run business differently. When we started in Malaysia almost like 10 years ago, we were one of the very few for-profit organizations driven by environmental and social impact. Truth be told, many of us left our corporate jobs to pursue this passion because our previous jobs were just not giving us that sort of fulfillment. And I must say that this says a lot about the current and also future generation, especially in having them in the workforce. Somehow in BGBG, we always tend to attract the younger talent to work with us. Maybe it's the nature of our work, or maybe it's the age proximity amongst the whole team. But what I find very beneficial working with a younger group is that they're highly creative in the ways that they solve challenges. They always tend to keep in mind the positive change that they can create, and they're definitely not afraid to take chances. And I guess one of the more important traits also is that they are very agile. They adapt to the program, and this allows them to quickly change strategies if it isn't working. So to sum it all up, how businesses can incorporate youth into their own mission towards a greener future, I would say is by providing them the platform to nurture their disruptive ideas towards creating impact. Of course, you know, hiring more fresh talents into the company is one thing, but what I've seen done well is also having youth accelerators or entrepreneurship programs within the company itself. And this helps to promote and grow these youth ideas, and it could potentially be adapted as one of the innovative solutions for the company. This definitely not only helps with like talent acquisitions and retention, but I think it also helps in growing your company and making sure that you are aligned and creating impact towards the SDGs.
Great. Thank you so much, Juliana. This was a great round. I loved what I was hearing. You know, we had a speaker at the first session today, Charlie Penner, and in one of his interviews, he asked ExxonMobil, do you know how you're going to fulfill your business plan without burning down the planet? So I want to ask each of you right now, what would you say to businesses and boards of directors who are still hesitating and betting on society not succeeding? Because we already know this is a crisis informed by science. We've had decades of universal acknowledgement that we urgently need to reduce our carbon footprint and environmental destruction, that Earth simply cannot sustain both population growth and economic growth as we understand it. We are still far behind the curve. And last year's global stock take indicate that all NDCs are on track for 2.7 degrees of warming. We have a more than 50% chance of hitting 1.5 degrees of warming in the next few years. What would you say to businesses and boards of directors who still don't get it? TP.
Well, first and foremost, I'll say good luck to not just to the corporations, but to all of us. I think what is ahead of us is likely to be arduous and difficult. I think in the Malaysian context, those of us who are from Malaysia, you know, the direct experience of the climate crisis has become more and more acute in the couple of years that have just passed. I think you know, if you just look around, everybody will tell you that they can no longer predict when is the rainy season. They can no longer predict when is the dry season. They can no longer predict when the durians will fruit because they're affected by the seasons. So these are issues that are very close to home. And so I mean that in jest, but also genuinely, we really need a bit of luck to get this through. Okay, so regarding what I would say to the corporations, I think this is something that Dr. Jane Goodall, our founder of Roots and Shoots, has shared with me before. And she has always said the reason why she works with youths is because they have an indomitable spirit that is inherent in all humans, but especially strong amongst young people, because whether it is through, I dare say, ignorance or just by nature of their age and the place they are in their life stage, they have an immense capacity for hope, for innovation, for receiving new ideas. Juliana spoke a great deal about how young people are very resilient, very agile, and they are very open to change. So let us harness this amazing energy that is inherent in young people. And this is something that I feel is the superpower that corporations can tap into, right? Because we have a super problem ahead of us, right? So let's also harness the superpowers that young people inherently have. And this is something that is true across all humanity, right? So it's, I think, I don't want to, that's why I'm sticking to my theme, which is I'm really talking about the psychology of the young people, right? The resilience and this amazing ability for them to have hope, to maybe, like I say, you know, at our age, you know, we feel a little bit jaded. We're like, you know, been there, done that. It's not going to work. But to a young 20-something-year-old, nothing phases them. And this is the energy that we need to overcome what's ahead of us. And it will be a disservice for all the slightly older leaders of corporations to not tap into this energy. We need it, like desperately.
I love that, TP. I love that. Kinan, what are your thoughts?
Yes, I see a lot of energies from TP. Yes, I think we are part of the ecosystem. And remember the butterfly effect. A small action can lead to a large impact, regardless difference in time and distance. One business activity of a company in one country can impact the life of people in another country. And one action today can lead to a positive or negative consequence in future, which depends on our current decision. And with nearly 15 years working with directly with the board, the top leader of various companies in corporate and also in advisory space, I understand the board consideration and challenges, but I also believe in the aspiration of a long-term and sustainable development for their companies, their businesses. And I would like to say just the board, you should put net zero as your strategic priority and have the action plan, and you have us young people as your valuable contributor, as your agents of innovation, entrepreneur, and change, who are helping and will help you more and more in this journey.
Thank you. Suksaboy, what would you say to businesses and boards of directors who are still hesitating?
Yes, so to me, I would say like the climate crisis is not choose to impact with the poor or rich country. Everyone will impact from the climate, and all the business in the world. We also rely on the natures. So if we not start changing, everyone will impact by this the crisis. So, and also we have to think about the next generation, and for sure those board or corporation, they will have their children, their next generation, right? So they should also not just only look at their business, but how about the next generation? It might be sometimes we have a lot of money, but there is not like, we cannot see the value of it if we have all the impact from climate. Sometimes I can see it in the like social media. Sometimes maybe money cannot buy like well-being because of the climate crisis as well. This also could impact to all people in the societies. Yeah.
I love that. You might have all this money, but you won't be able to buy well-being in a crisis. That's a really good point. Juliana, what are your thoughts?
Thanks, Sunita. Well, we all know that in order for any sustainable change to happen, everyone needs to be on board to do their part. We each have our roles to play in this climate crisis, and everyone is impacted, just like, just to reiterate what Susavoy mentioned earlier. So the youth, I feel, will go on to start their own businesses and startups driven to create environmental and social impact. But we must also understand the kind of impact that larger businesses and corporations can bring if they were to even create a small shift in tackling climate change. I think boards of directors and the people who are able to make such decisions must understand the influence that they have in this matter. Also, I think on top of making the organizational shift towards running a sustainable business, it's also important to provide support to the other players in the ecosystem who's also trying to make impact. This ties in very closely to Goal 17 of the SDG, Partnerships for the Goals. We must all recognize that we cannot possibly create an impactful change if we do not work with each other. Because, after all, we're all fighting for one Earth, right? For the same ultimate cause. So what I would say is that for the board of directors, for everyone involved, to look at things a little bit differently, not just within your companies, but also look towards the larger ecosystem. What role can you play, or what role are you willing to play to do your part to combat climate change? Look towards who you can work with, who can you collaborate with that will bring the benefit and impact for both your organizations and also the environment.
Excellent points, Juliana. Let's keep that in mind. So the next round of questions for all of you, before we take a look at what's in the Q&A box, from your deep engagement with the youth, how easy is it for us to make this pivot, and what would you like to see happen this year? Could we just go in the same order again? TP, what are your thoughts?
Yes, my specific ask to the corporations is for support and empowerment from corporations, whether by way of monetary support or contribution of resources, contribution of networks, of know-how, of technologies. Basically, what we're trying to do at Roots and Shoots Malaysia and Roots and Shoots worldwide is for the empowerment of local communities of youth, but also to encourage the interchange and the exchange of ideas and collaboration between the youths of different nations. Now, Roots and Shoots operates in more than 100 countries around the world. And in a way, we are a grassroots program that is very much connected with the youth communities in all the nations where we operate. And so now we are moving into a phase whereby we're trying to align and maximize the impact of the youths, their knowledge and their experiences by connecting the youths from all these different countries. We are actively working on developing a program to connect the youths from the Asia Pacific regions. We are currently active in Taiwan, China, India, Australia, Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, Japan, Korea. So these are the youth communities that we're hoping to put together and work together, and also actually to connect with other partners who are also in the field, so to speak, in all of these countries. So any kind of support, any kind of help that we can receive from corporations to assist us in this journey is very much welcome. And that is my specific ask from this talk. Thank you very much, Datin.
I think that's the ask of all of them. So Kunan, I hope you have a different ask.
Yes, thank you for your initiative, TP Lin. From my deep engagement with youth, I would say that today young people become more and more climate conscious, and they have a great passion on how to change the world more sustainable. Like all participants can see from our young people today to share with our passion. And I think I want to see more and more the worldwide, nationwide, and even organization-wide campaigns about climate change, ESG, and net zero which are space for youth to act. And youth, including me, will be proactive contributor to the campaign, and we can take immediate action, or we can enhance awareness of others, maybe our colleagues, our friends, our partner, or our clients, and even society. And we can spread these campaigns through social media like Facebook, Insta, and TikTok, creative, very creative. And we also can influence and inspire others by our own action and stories. Let's say I expect the space from the company, from government, and from all nation for that.
Suksaboy.
Yes, to me, I expect to see many more actions and the support to the young people, because I see that the young people, they always ready to take action, just need the platform or the leader to give them more opportunity, to give them support, so that they can do more, as they have a lot of energy. Because sometimes those stakeholders, they might have some time constraints or like the human resources, but here we have the young people, like 60% of the population. Why we not have them, support them to make the change and build them to be the sustainability leader in the near future, or start from the present? Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Just to be more specific, last year we ran a series of roundtable sessions because we believe that this crisis requires an all of government, whole of society approach. And what transpired after the end of 14 roundtable sessions across 4 economic sectors is that there's plenty of low-hanging fruit, simple and elegant solutions, which in all likelihood could get us to net zero this year, which can be implemented. So I think if the youth can put their backs behind some of this and get the support of corporations, I think this could see tremendous impact. Juliana, what are your thoughts?
I completely agree. There's a lot of low-hanging fruits that we can definitely tackle. Coming together to work together to work towards climate change. I must say, with the low-hanging fruits and with the youth, as amazing as it is working with them, it can also be slightly challenging because the youth have so many innovative and creative ideas. It's a blessing and also a not so blessing in disguise. So with them being having so many ideas, right, it can sometimes be difficult for them to focus on one thing and doing it well. I can attest to it based on the history of BGBG, where we have reveled into sustainable fashion, into upcycling furnitures, into event management, and also green energy, and so much more. It's only after 8 years that for us, BGBG, we learn our lesson, and now we have to consciously remain focused on what we are great at and create impact through that. Going back to the questions, we've run so many accelerator programs and boot camps over the past few years, right? That is always amazing, like I mentioned, to see crazy ideas that these youth have come up with in terms of the environmental and social impact. What I feel that they struggle with is to sharpen their entrepreneurial skills and their business management skills, and of course, their ability to grow their network. And this is where our kind of programs come in. And this is also what I would like to see more of in the coming years. My ask, of course, is similar. It's all about support. Larger corporations need to provide the support. But specifically, I feel that support is in nurturing the younger environmental startups to help them scale their businesses and innovations. For me, I am driven by partnerships and collaborations. So being able to see more corporates working with impact startups, especially in tackling the low-hanging fruits, would be ideal.
Thank you. We have some questions here and also some questions on WOVAR. I wanted to ask you this particular question. The youth today have to face a great burden, whether present, past generations, who have not really cared for planet Earth as much as they could. And in Malaysia, the youth have a more onerous burden with the forthcoming elections. How can the new youth voters do their bit to make their future better? Right. So for those in Vietnam and Laos, any listeners who are not in Malaysia, Malaysia has got an upcoming general election, and a whole swath of youth voters will be voting for the very first time. So this question is about how can youth voters make a mindful, conscious decision about the sort of future that they would like to see. Who would like to respond to this?
I can attempt. Well, I guess with the rising of organizations like Undi 18 focusing on more like youth-related, youth-centric actions towards for voting and for the elections and things like that, I think the youth are given a bit more, hopefully, transparent platform towards making the right decisions on voting, on elections. I definitely feel that the youth do have the power to, I guess, come together and create the kind of voice, the loud voice that will be listened to. The thing is that everyone needs to play their part, exactly what I mentioned earlier, right? Everyone has a role to play. Even the youth, if they want to create change, they need to put their foot down and get their voice heard. That's what I feel.
Any other thoughts from anyone else?
I think whether it's a general elections in Malaysia or a general election in any other country for that matter, let us not forget that actually we can vote not only during a general election, but we can vote every time we choose to buy something that is made from sustainable sources. We can vote in terms of what we choose to eat, what we choose to wear, how we choose to travel. So I think to me, that is probably even more important because those are decisions that we make over and over again, multiple times a day. And over a course of lifetimes, the world will change because of the way we vote in our lives. So I think in the context of a general election, it's something that is it's a pinnacle of attention, but I think it really ought to be a daily, multiple time decision that we vote where our heart wants to be. Yeah.
That's such an important point, TP. As I always say to people, whether you're an individual, a household, a business, you can resolve to be a zero waste organization or household. You can resolve to be as energy efficient as possible and as water efficient as possible. And that's entirely within your control. We have another question, which is about academia, and how researchers or youth can bring science and technology together to facilitate citizen participation. What needs to change in academia? What is missing to ensure effective participation of young people? It's quite a few things in this question, but essentially how to build capabilities and capacity among the youth so that they can participate, they can engage much more efficiently, effectively than they are right now. Anyone like to tackle this?
Maybe I can go first for this question.
Yeah.
So for example, right now we also involved in the green modules for it's called like advocacy school. So that's mean for the courage. So what now Zero Waste Law, what we try to do is we try to train the young people to be the trainer or master of trainer, because we believe that they are very creative and they are always open, they always have the solution and open to change. So that's why we try to have them. And now it's also acknowledged from not just only from the young people that we train, but we also work with adults, or now it will be involved as a curriculum. So this is it starts from give them opportunity to learn, to try. So one day, I think maybe within few years, they can involve to be the trainers, or not just only the trainer, but involved in the curriculum or involved in how to create a news module for not just only as an individual, but into the system. So this is something that we are very proud that the government, the ministry, and also the development partner also acknowledge. So I think this is something that we would like to encourage people to just start from giving opportunity to them and listen to them. So one day that they can do a bigger change, not just as individual, but it can change the system.
Anyone else? No, okay. Resolutely silent. Okay. Now for closing remarks, I want to ask each of you, we've been talking so much about what the youth can, why the youth are so important. They're going to be future staff, consumers, and of course, investors. They are going to be allocating capital and then inheriting this world, which we haven't really done a very good job of. And another phrase I'm fond of repeating is that this is possibly the first generation that can do anything about the climate emergency effectively, but it is also the last generation that is likely to bend the curve, as it were. So I wanted to invite each of you to share your closing thoughts as to how we can take into account more effectively voices of youth for a cleaner, greener future. What would you like to leave the audience with? Is there anything that we haven't covered yet?
If I may go first, since this is the queue, right? I'm number one on the ticket. When Dr. Jane was last here in Malaysia, 2019, Dr. Jane Goodall would often visit Asia and Malaysia, once every 2 years. So just before COVID hit, she was in Malaysia, and I was just having a chat with her about the state of the world, so to speak, and she gave me some important advice about the work that we're doing in Malaysia and in Asia generally. She said, take pride, but also take delight in the fact that in this part of the world, we still have a rainforest to save. I think it is because she travels so many parts of the world, and oftentimes, we lament on the fact that, we've lost 50% of our forest, and it's all looking very doom and gloom. She wanted to remind us, let's not lose hope. There's still the other 50% that you can save, because many parts of the world, they don't even have that. And many parts of the world, we are finding ourselves in a situation where we have to rewild what used to be a forest or nature. You have to grow trees from saplings. And in Malaysia and many parts of Asia and many parts of the world for that matter, we still have rainforests or forests which are 150 million years old, right? So I think my closing remark is to echo what Dr. Jane has said, which is have hope and look to what is still amazing and awesome that we can still protect. And let's not lose sight of what we still have, and let us work to protect them so that they don't get destroyed further. And then maybe then also we can work on improving, circumstances or environments which have already been damaged, and hope that things can be reversed and the curve can be bent, as Dr. Datin you mentioned. But I think let us start with what is still good. There's still a lot that's working on this earth, and it is important for us to protect what is still here, and then from there, that as the foundation to move on to tackling kind of regeneration, rewilding, and improving situations which are not so great.
What an excellent reminder. Thank you so much, TP. We are one of only 17 countries of mega biodiversity in the world. Because of our long coastline, we also have great, rich marine biodiversity as well. Kinan from Vietnam, what are your thoughts?
Yes, I think climate change, of course, is a global issue, a macro issue, and maybe many people think that which requires our top leaders or world leaders, the government to solve. But I think all of us as individuals, we can be part of the solution, and by our daily action in our work and life, but we should set the action as our behaviors, our habits, and our lifestyle, and we can make the change. How to say? Many a little make a micro, and together we can make difference in net zero journey, create a greener and cleaner future. We can't wait for the future generation. We can act now. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kunan. Suk Savoy from Laos, what are your thoughts?
I'm very inspired joining this talk with everyone, you know. So for me, when I try to encourage people for the action, what I like to say is just like save. I mean, save not just only about save water, but save the money from our pocket that not overconsume. For example, when we save water, that means we save money. We save like towering, that means we save money, not overconsume. So it's not about like we save the world, but we save ourselves, our money, our own being. And we save the environment, that means we save our life. So just think about this, not just only the big word, but our well-being and our well-being of our new generation.
Thank you so much, Suk Savoy. That's a very good reminder. Juliana.
Thanks, Sunita. So we've all been speaking about the various roles and impacts that youth can bring towards a more sustainable future, how this can be beneficial, not only for our climate change, but also for businesses and future of work, and how we can impact our pockets as well. I want to reiterate what TP said, because it's really sticking to me. People tend to think of environmental issues as a very depressing matter. I feel like if we shift just how we think just a little, to think of the so-called greener, positive part of things, it would be a much more fun and interesting matter to tackle. Thank you so much, TP, for sharing that, because I do find that people tend to not speak about climate change like it's a taboo kind of topic because they feel it's such a downer. But if we just shift it, talk about what we can do now instead, for the betterment of the future, I think that would be a better way to approach things. Also, based on the insights that I've shared and also my own personal experiences in seeing such things happen, I would urge for all of us to engage with the different stakeholders in the ecosystem. I've been saying this word a lot in like my sharing for today. It's all about collaboration. I think collaborate is the key word. Work or partner with other businesses or organizations so that you can amplify both your impacts. You never know, right? You may be able to be the key to another person's problem. And together you guys can be able to make the sustainable change.
Brilliant. You guys have been such an inspiring panel. Thank you so, so much. I just wanted to recap some of the things I've heard that really triggered, resonated. TP reminded us that the youth are going to be demanding explanations, they're going to want solutions, they are going to want justice, and these are a segment of society with an indomitable spirit. So remember that. Juliana reminded us that there's plenty of low-hanging fruits, especially when we collaborate, when we come together. And Kunan told us that all of us can be part of the solution just through our daily actions. And Suk Savoy, of course, said that, don't forget, you cannot buy well-being in a crisis. So thank you so much, all of you. You've been fabulous. I look forward to engaging with you again in the future. Thank you so much for your time today. And now I want to invite Assad Razzouk to share his keynote with us. Over to you, Assad.
Sunita, Assad hasn't actually come yet, so I think we should play the video from the minister.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Assad. If you're on, could you go ahead first?
Sure. Let me know when.
Right away.
Okay.
Thank you, Assad.
My pleasure. Hi, everybody, and delighted to be here for a short talk, which today I want to focus on litigation, and specifically climate litigation. And in about 10 minutes total, I'll give just a broad overview of climate litigation around the world. So first to start, within the space of just 4 weeks in 2021, last year, Germany's constitutional court ordered the German government to significantly accelerate the country's action on climate change. Within those same 4 weeks, a Dutch court ordered oil company Shell to reduce its climate warming emissions by 45% by 2030. And it said, the court said, that the company must take responsibility for its own carbon emissions, as well as those of its entire supply chain. Now, these were two monumental decisions. The German government obliged, so moved right away to implement the court's decision, whereas Shell appealed, and to this day, its appeal is still in process. But the reason these two decisions were monumental at the time they were issued is because, first, no country had yet been ordered by its courts to comprehensively step up on climate action. And then second, no oil company either had been ordered by any court to shrink by almost half. That's why they were monumental. And these were just the tip of the global climate litigation action that is taking place around us and bubbling underneath the surface, which I want to bring to your attention. The climate litigation space boomed historically since the 2015 Paris Agreement at COP21. And today we have active cases that are in excess of 1,600. So that's 1,600 lawsuits around the world, all of which are focused on climate. And they come a bit like ice cream in different flavors. So some are filed against listed companies, so the company itself, accusing them of selling either physical or financial products with misleading tags, and without adequately disclosing the climate risks attached to these products. For example, in the UK, after one of these cases, BP had to withdraw an advertising campaign, which was everywhere, with the tagline "possibilities everywhere," because it was misleading the public about the scale of its green portfolio. And it was playing down its dirty natural gas initiatives. Shell also, by the way, was rebuffed by the Dutch advertising watchdog on similar grounds. So that's flavor number one, lawsuits against listed companies. Flavor number two is going after polluters for violating people's constitutional rights, such as the right to life or health. So, for example, in the Dutch case in 2021, the Hague District Court, which was the court that was involved, ruled that the Dutch government wasn't taking enough action to protect the right of life. And these are very important precedents because they set the stage for other courts in other countries to point back at them as precedent. And so it's kind of, it's like the building blocks of a house is what is taking place all around us. In Portugal, for example, in 2020, 6 children filed a lawsuit in the European Court of Justice of Human Rights against 33 European countries for threatening their right to life by moving too slowly to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Again, it's a right to life and right to health basis for that lawsuit, which is still playing out in the courts. So that's the second flavor, lawsuits based on the right to health or the right to life. The third flavor is trying to force oil, gas, and coal companies to keep fossil fuels in the ground. And I'll give you 1 or 2 examples. So in Pakistan, for example, a 7-year-old girl represented by her father sued to stop particularly dirty coal fields from being developed on the grounds that these mining activities would drastically increase Pakistan's emissions and be catastrophic for future generations. In Colombia, to move to a completely different part of the world, the Supreme Court ruled in 2018 on similar grounds in favor of 25 young plaintiffs seeking to ban mining and oil exploration. And in Colombia, 473 concessions, oil concessions, were effectively blocked because of that litigation. So that's the third flavor. The fourth one is about enforcing existing legislation, which is on the books, because quite often legislation against pollution is either not or badly enforced. And I'll give you an example from Europe. The French government, for example, the very same French government which brokered the Paris Climate Accord, was sued by one of its sub-jurisdictions, which was particularly exposed to climate change on the basis that it wasn't doing enough to actually fight back against climate change. And that council reminded the government that it was failing in its commitment to reduce emissions by 40% by 2030. So that's flavor 4. And what these actions have in common, and these aren't the only flavors, and I'll add a couple in a minute, but what these actions have in common is that they seek to hold power, so governments and corporations, to account. Now, out of these 1,550 cases worldwide that I mentioned, at the moment, the majority are in the United States, 77%. And that's followed by Australia at number 2, the UK at number 3, and the EU at number 4. And there's many more in every EU country, as well as Ukraine. And more are being added constantly. And this is the case across all continents. There is no continent which is spared from a climate litigation perspective. So in Asia, for example, while China is conspicuously absent, there are climate litigation cases in India, in Indonesia, in Japan, Pakistan, the Philippines, South Korea, and Taiwan. Similar story in Africa, where multiple countries have climate litigation cases that are going through the courts. And these cases aren't about whether we should be using fossil fuels, because I think reasonable observers accept that there is a minimum of fossil fuels which we will continue to use for critical needs, for example, in medical equipment. However, the lawsuits matter because of the key questions that they're trying to answer, ranging from who's going to pay for all the damages around us from burning oil, gas, and coal, to who's responsible for the fact that we've known for 40 years that it's an environmentally destructive product but haven't really done anything about it. And it's that entire spectrum of outcomes which is being tested by these lawsuits around the world. Now, you can imagine that there's a lot of money fighting back against the lawsuits from principally oil and gas companies, but not only oil and gas companies, because they're terrified. They're terrified because it's a matter of public record that they've known about the environmental damage of their product and have either hidden that damage or at a minimum done absolutely nothing about it. In, one of the most conspicuous examples, for example, oil companies have been building defenses against sea level rise on their offshore oil rigs and refineries for decades. So it's very clear that they've known what's going on. And imagine what would happen the minute an oil executive from Exxon, for example, or Shell testifies in an open court that they knowingly misled the public about climate threats since at least 1990. You can just play out the consequences and they will be massive. And this is not such a distant or impossible outcome, because that's exactly what happened with the tobacco companies, who denied effectively product responsibility for decades, but then suddenly had to pay for it. Now, oil and gas fines will be several order of magnitudes greater than those of tobacco companies. And these will start playing through the capital markets, so the price of securities of these sectors. We're not there yet in 2022, but I'm highly confident that we will be by 2025 or 2030 at the very latest. Because while tobacco harmed users and those around them, the damage from burning oil, gas, and coal, which once again was hidden by oil and gas companies as a matter of public record, affects the entire world and everything, every living thing in it. It's a different order of magnitude. Now, therefore, you can expect that in time, climate change litigation will create large financial liabilities for not only oil and gas and coal companies, but many other companies that use fossil fuels in their products, which is why you see such a push now in the supply chain to actually power manufacturing, for example, with renewable energy. One of the key trends that's shaping the change in the renewable energy landscape in Asia, for example. Now, I want to close by bringing out two more flavors of climate lawsuits. Climate lawsuits are also expanding to fiduciaries. So that's people who manage money on behalf of others, and to company directors directly. And that's also, these are also emerging trends. So in a trailblazing lawsuit, for example, ClientEarth, a London-based NGO, notified Shell this year, 2022, that it would commence legal proceedings, not against Shell, but against the company's 13 directors directly, so the individuals, over the mismanagement of climate risk and the board's failure to adopt a strategy truly aligned with the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement. And that's playing out in the English courts as we speak. And then the final emerging trend from a climate litigation perspective is delisting companies from stock exchanges and delisting bonds as well, on the grounds, under pressure from climate lawsuits and non-compliance, in effect, with climate rules. And I will leave you with this thought. In the climate change space, what we've seen again and again is that what is radical has a track record of becoming normal in very short order. It's hard to remember the days when Greta Thunberg, for example, or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez were little-known activists, or Extinction Rebellion had yet to disrupt commuters, but that was only 2019, 3 years ago. Nobody knew them 3 years ago, and now they're basically everywhere. And Germany's climate plan for net zero by 2045, which was a direct result of that German court case that I started this talk with, was delivered in 4 weeks and effectively transformed Germany, even before the additional push to green Germany that was given by the Ukraine war. So expect the unexpected, and expected probably sooner than you think. And thank you very much for both having me and listening. Back to you, Sunita.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam keluarga Malaysia. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by thanking the organizers, the ASEAN Climate Governance Network, for inviting me to speak at this year's ASEAN chapter of the Climate Governance Initiative Global Summit, aptly themed Ambition to Action. Over the years, Malaysia has consistently embraced and prioritized sustainability in our national socio-economic development agenda. The 12th Malaysia Plan was formulated to promote long-term sustainability and prosperity in line with the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. In the past 50 years, we have successfully transformed the Malaysian economy, raised the living standards of all Malaysians, alleviated poverty, and provided quality and accessible healthcare and education to our people. In safeguarding planetary health, Malaysia has been incorporating environmental and climate change considerations into its socio-economic development policies, legislation, planning, and strategies. That said, we must seek to continuously improve and never rest on our laurels. Ladies and gentlemen, the devastating consequences of climate change are threatening our day-to-day lives. This year, many parts of the world have been affected by extreme weather conditions. Both Europe and China suffered one of their worst droughts ever recorded. More recently, countries in North America and Asia have been devastated by floods that resulted from typhoons and hurricanes. As part of the global community, Malaysia will continue to play its part in preventing as well as neutralizing threats that may arise from climate change. Ladies and gentlemen, our planet is home to approximately 8 billion people, about 1.8 billion of whom are young people from the ages of 10 to 24. In ASEAN alone, we have about 213 million people in this age category. Despite being the largest generation of youth ever recorded, young people are often sidelined in the decision-making process. They are unfortunately seen as mere beneficiaries of the policies of today rather than key stakeholders who can help formulate a better tomorrow. This must change. Firstly, the youth must be encouraged to actively contribute to the current climate action framework and assist in building a greener future. As countries seek to achieve the respective nationally determined contributions and NDC targets, they must harness the skills and experiences of the youth who are actively participating in laudable initiatives such as volunteering with organizations and donating to environmental initiatives. Secondly, the younger generation must be given the financial capability to realize their ideas and solutions. We must harness their creativity in developing green products and services. Governments, investors, and businesses can support these youth-led climate change initiatives by providing grants, debt financing, venture capital, or in-kind support. Thirdly, young people must be given a seat at the table. For climate-related decision-making to be inclusive and all-encompassing, youth inclusion should not be an afterthought. It is important for governments, corporations and other stakeholders to support and encourage these future leaders to actively participate in the global fight against climate change. Ladies and gentlemen, empowering young people is key to our goal of tackling climate change. Neglecting young people means neglecting a transformational opportunity to lay the foundation for a peaceful and sustainable future. I would like to take this opportunity to commend the UN Development Programme, UNDP, for providing strong support to youth-led action and meaningful youth engagement across the globe. UNDP has been promoting the rights of future generations and amplifying young people's voices in decisions on climate action and the future of their communities through capacity building, political participation, and support to innovators. In ASEAN, recognition of the younger generation as an essential partner in the fight against climate change was highlighted during the 16th ASEAN Ministerial Meeting on the Environment and the 16th meeting of the Conference of the Parties to the ASEAN Agreement on Transboundary Haze Pollution in October 2021. Once again, my thanks to the organizers. Let us collectively work together to ensure a more sustainable future. Thank you. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dato Sri Mustapa. And thank you to you all for having joined us today. So we've actually just concluded the last of our 4 sessions today by ASEAN Climate Governance Network. Do check out the schedule. There is a huge lineup of other events for the rest of the day. The sessions today have been recorded and will be available on both HOVA as well as the Climate Governance Malaysia YouTube channel. So do look out for it. It should be up in the next couple of days. So thank you.